Last episode, we talked about change outputs. The coin your wallet sends back to you after a transaction spends a larger input. This episode is about the habit that sits even closer to the surface: address reuse. Because a Bitcoin address is not a username, it is not your Venmo handle, it is not your public account number, it is a receiving destination. And if you use the same receiving destination over and over, you can turn separate payments into one public folder. That is the mistake. Not theft, not magic surveillance, a privacy leak. Bitcoin is public, transactions are recorded permanently. That is one reason Bitcoin is auditable. But the same transparency that makes the supply verifiable also means wallet habits matter. If someone sees one address and that same address receives payments from an exchange, a friend, a client, a donation page, and your long-term storage, the address starts acting like a label. Not because Bitcoin forced it to, because the user reused it. This is the difference between Bitcoin's transparency and your personal privacy. Bitcoin needs public verification. Everyone should be able to verify the supply. Everyone should be able to verify that transactions follow the rules. That is not the problem. The problem is when a user accidentally creates a public shortcut that says all of these payments belong in the same bucket. That shortcut is what address reuse gives away. It gives the outside world free context, not necessarily your legal name, not necessarily your full story, but more structure than you needed to reveal. Here's the simple analogy. Imagine every receipt in your life had the same customer number printed on it: the coffee shop, the paycheck, the medical bill, the fundraiser, the savings transfer, one number across all contexts. That would be convenient. It would also be a terrible privacy habit. Bitcoin address reuse is similar. A reused address makes it easier for observers to connect contexts that did not need to be connected. The beginner model should be new payment, fresh address whenever possible. Same wallet, different receiving destination. Here's the part that trips people up. A fresh address does not mean a separate account. It does not mean you are creating a new identity. It does not mean you need to write down a new seed phrase every time someone pays you. The wallet can generate new addresses under the same backup. That is the whole point of modern wallet design. The user sees a new receiving address. The wallet still knows it belongs to you. The backup still matters. And the public chain gets less unnecessary reuse. Modern wallets are designed for this. They can generate many addresses from the same wallet backup. That is why a fresh address does not mean a fresh seed phrase every time. It means the wallet gives you a new receiving address for the next incoming payment. The backup still matters. The wallet still controls the funds. But the public trail is cleaner than reusing one address forever. Now compare two users. User 1 receives every withdrawal, every payment, and every donation to one address. Anyone who sees that address can watch the pile grow. They may not know the person's name, but if the address gets linked once, the whole pile is easier to study. User 2 receives to fresh addresses. That does not make them invisible, but it avoids handing observers one tidy folder with every payment inside it. That difference is the habit, not perfection. Hygiene. Here's another beginner trap. Some people reuse addresses because they are afraid of losing funds if the address changes. That fear is understandable. Bitcoin feels unforgiving when you first learn it, but in a normal modern wallet, new receiving addresses are expected. The wallet generated them. The wallet tracks them. The wallet can show the payments that arrive. The thing you protect is the wallet backup, not a single address. That does not mean you should be careless. You still verify addresses before sending. You still test with small amounts when learning. You still keep backups secure, but do not confuse a fresh receiving address with a brand new wallet identity. Now, this is not perfect invisibility. Fresh addresses do not erase every privacy risk. Common input spending, bad coin control, careless labels, exchange records, timing, amounts, and later consolidation can all leak information. That is why the last few episodes connect. Wallet labels help future you remember context. Coin control helps you decide which coins to spend. Change outputs explain what comes back after a spend. Address reuse is the receiving side habit. It is the front door. If you make the front door messy, everything after it gets harder. Think about an exchange withdrawal. If you always withdraw to the same address, the exchange can already see its side of the transaction, and the public chain can show repeated deposits to the same destination. If that address later appears somewhere public, the old pattern becomes easier to interpret. Fresh addresses do not make exchange records vanish. They simply avoid making the public side cleaner for observers than it has to be. That is the standard here. Do not give away extra structure. Do not create a tidy public folder when a fresh address would have kept context more separate. Here is the practical version. If someone is paying you in Bitcoin, give them a fresh address. If an exchange lets you withdraw to a saved address, be careful with convenience. A saved address can be useful, but it can also train you into reuse. If you publish a donation address, understand that it is public by design. If you receive from different contexts, separate those contexts when you can. If your wallet shows an address book, learn the difference between a saved contact and your own receiving address. If your exchange lets you whitelist addresses, understand the trade-off. Whitelisting can reduce withdrawal mistakes, but it can also encourage repeated withdrawals to the same destination. If you are moving coins to cold storage, consider whether each withdrawal should get a fresh address from the same wallet. If you are testing a wallet, use small amounts and keep your notes boring. Do not write seed words or private keys into ordinary notes. Do not assume an address is an identity. And do not make one address carry your whole financial story. There is also a social side. If you put a receiving address in a public bio, invoice template, or old website, treat that address as public forever. Do not reuse it later for a private context. The internet has memory. Blockchains have memory. The combination is not something to be casual about. The goal is not paranoia. The goal is less free information. Bitcoin gives you an auditable monetary system. It does not automatically give you perfect personal privacy. That part depends partly on wallet design and partly on user behavior. So the whole lesson is simple. A Bitcoin address is a receipt destination, not a permanent identity. Use fresh addresses whenever possible. Label the context privately. Keep public addresses public. Keep private context separate. And when you spend later, remember that coin control is where receiving habits meet spending habits. And remember that every reused address is a little more public history than you needed to create. Next episode, we bring the whole wallet map back to memory, wallet labels, and why future you needs context before the coins all look the same. This is Exit Velocity. Think in Bitcoin. Educational only, not financial, tax, legal, security, or privacy advice.